In this video, we're going to be discussing alien abductions. Okay, guys, welcome back. So, after the first two conspiracy videos I did, they did much better than most of my conspiracy videos in my ODT, and a lot of people requested me to stay on this topic and then keep going with it. So I'm definitely going to do that because it's something I love to discuss. I do find entertainment value in these kind of topics. I'm not as extreme as some people out there that believe in them, and I'm not as extreme as some skeptics are to debunk them. I just love discussing it. I love the idea of the possibility, and overall, it is entertaining, at least to me. Now, in this video, we're going to discuss alien abductions. I want to kind of do a follow-up to the whole UFO alien thing, because when we're talking about extraterrestrials, there are many different things that occur that can be put into question. Of course, we already went over UFOs, extraterrestrial life, and now we're going to talk about abductions. And in this video, I'm going to focus on one primary case that, if you follow this kind of content, you definitely heard of this case, and if you haven't, it'll be very interesting to read this. Now, in this case, the abduction is called the Betty and Barney Hill abduction. And I'm not going to get into it. I'm not going to get too deep into it. There's a lot of information to cover. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the link to this story, which is in Wikipedia, which gives all the breakdown and details. I'm going to put a link to this in the description so you can read about it yourself. But basically, this event occurred in September 19th, 1961. Betty and Barney Hill, which were an interracial couple, were driving back to Portsmouth from vacation in Niagara Falls. They were going through New Hampshire, and basically Betty was watching a light or some sort of orb, which seemed at first she thought was either a comet or a shooting star, until she noticed that it was making erratic movements, and it consistently had been following her and Barney for some time. And at one point she had asked Barney if she could stop the car off the side of the road so she could watch the object, but they also wanted to take an opportunity to walk their dog. When they got back in the car, and they continued on their trip. Now, before they continue on, Barney had taken a look at the object from his binoculars and insisted it was a plane until he saw it descending upon them and getting closer. And not that it was right in front of him, but he could tell that it was getting closer and coming lower down. It continued to follow them for some time until finally it basically not landed, but it stopped in front of them, above them, about what he described was about 300 feet and about 80 feet in front of him. And at the end of the day, he got out the car, he used his binoculars to take a look. He noticed that it was almost like a pancake-shaped saucer, and he could see into the windows that there were a couple of, I think he said 11 humanoids, what looked to be humanoids, but not human, looking at them. Finally, the craft opens, and the couple is, I believe, well, they believe they were taken in. Later on, it changes a little bit. They were obviously tested upon and things of that nature. But what happened was they found themselves. They found that a trip that should have taken about 4 hours took 7. So there was a big time gap. Barney, it was described that he went into denial about the whole thing, where Betty, I think, embraced the experience more. So she started unlocking dreams of the events that took place. Some of those dreams she remembers being escorted by, I think, 6 men who were not very tall, about 5 feet to 5 feet 4 inches tall. And basically they were trying to soothe her, calm her nerves, and she was able to look back and see her husband not too far behind her, also being escorted. They were taking onto the craft, separated. He went one way, she was taken another way, and they were conducting tests on her. And for the most part, they seemed like normal tests that a doctor would do, but there were some odd things that took place. For example, she had recalled that her navel was a needle was inserted into her navel to test her nervous system. I believe they took samples of her skin, so they scraped her skin a little bit. They didn't describe that as being painful, but it doesn't sound like it's pleasant. She also mentioned that they were talking to her, trying to calm her down, and when they finally finished the exam, she had reached over and grabbed what seemed to be a book with strange markings on them. The one alien, or I should say, well, I'll just say alien. There's no need in being secretive. We know what they are, or at least what we're referring to. Asked her if she wanted to keep the book, and she obviously was going to take it. And then she asked them where they were from, and the alien had, I guess, hit a button or something, and it showed like a hologram, and it was like a star map, and he showed her where they were from. So, and those right there, those events were events that she described in her dream. Now, over time, they went to hypnosis sessions, and Barney started finally coming out with his side of the story. To make a long story short, both their stories were very similar, almost identical. The only discrepancies were with Betty's dreams and Betty's recounting of the actual events that took place. But I think the most important thing was the fact that both their stories were very, very on point. In fact, I think they said they were identical. I don't think there were any discrepancies. And the dreams could easily be explained as, when you dream of something, you're going to alter things. If you dream of something that actually happened, it's not going to be verbatim. It's going to be different because your mind is in a different unconscious state. There might have been other things you thought about that could be included in that, what have you. I'm no expert. I'm just speculating. Now, the interesting thing about this story is the fact that these people were normal people. They weren't UFO enthusiasts. This happened in 1961, and at this time, while UFOs had just come out to the scene, abductions were very rarely reported. And the other thing was they were this normal American couple. At that time, it was abnormal to have an interracial relationship, but for the most part, they described their relationship as perfectly fine. Their families got along. There were no issues. And he worked for the Postal Service. She, I believed, I can't remember what she was, but it says it here on the information. So you'll if you decide to read that, it'll say. So would they make up a story like this out of nowhere? I don't know. And the interesting thing is, when you go down to the section where it talks about people who were skeptical about their story, even the skeptics had very poor explanations as to why they believed their stories were false. For example, a gentleman named Brian Dunning reported that the hypnosis sessions occurred over 2 years after the reported abductions. He's basically his accusation is that they had plenty of time to discuss the encounter, basically plan it, and that he called their story merely an inevitable tale from the mind of a lifelong UFO fanatic. Now, the funny thing about that is neither one of them were UFO fanatics. So right there, here's a skeptic making a false claim. So not only is he making himself look like an idiot, he's actually giving the story some sort of truth, because, they had no reason to pull a hoax. Let's put it that way. They weren't even seeking publicity after the fact. The only reason they even got popular was because some journalists picked up the story and ran with it and took it international. That's how they became famous. That's how they got on the scene. So here you have a middle-aged, not middle-aged, but, you have a probably in my age group. There were, let me see, it happened in 61. Barney Hill died, I believe, in 69 at 46. So he was, 37? He was 37 possibly when this happened. So here you have a couple in their 30s. One's a post office worker. The other, they're both good, wholesome American people, it seems. Never done a bad thing in their life as far as we can see. It's not reported there. Usually they report that kind of dirt. Do not know anything about UFOs. Barney was obviously very much against believing in them, to the point that even if he had been abducted, he was in denial. So, like I said, I'll leave the article or the page in the description for you guys to check it out. But it's a very interesting story. Do I think it happened? I think it's a very good chance. When you compare this to other abduction stories, this one seems to hold the most weight, which is probably why it's the most popular. But the truth of it is, we'll never know. We weren't there. We can only believe what these people tell us if we choose to believe it. But looking at the facts in terms of the hypnosis and the similarities in the story, the fact that she had a star map, and even down here, I didn't even get into that, but when you go onto this page, they'll have a little section discussing the star map and how it does have similarity outlines to a certain region in space. I'm not an astronomer, so you'll have to read that to get a better understanding, but it is very interesting stuff. So I just wanted to share that with you guys. For those of you who haven't heard about this abduction case, for those of you who have, then you know the deal. It's a very, very interesting case. There are many out there. There's also I think Travis Wilton or Travis Whitmore. I know his first name's Travis. I don't remember his second name, but they made a movie based on his abduction. It was called Fire in the Sky, starring D.B. Sweeney. So that's another one. Read up on that one. If you check out the movie, it's pretty good. But, you know, interesting stuff, interesting stuff. So I just want to share that with you guys, get you guys' thoughts on that, especially if you've never heard the case. If you've never heard the case, check out the Wikipedia page. I'm going to leave in the link, and then come back to the comments and let me know what you think. I want to hear what you have to say about it. But outside of that, very interesting stuff, guys. So anyway, that's it for this video. Hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you on the next conspiracy theory video. And if there's a certain topic you want me to cover, just let me know. I'll be more than happy to do it. Have a good one, guys, and I'll see you next video. Hey guys, welcome to Entertainment Talk Nation. I'm your host Rob, and this video we're going to be discussing alien abductions. Okay guys, welcome back. So, you know, after the first two conspiracy videos I did, they did much better than most of my conspiracy videos in my ODT, and a lot of people requested me to stay on this topic and then keep going with it. So I'm definitely going to do that because it's something I love to discuss. I do find entertainment value in these kind of topics. I'm not as extreme as some people out there that believe in them, and I'm not as extreme as some skeptics are to debunk them. I just love discussing it. I love the idea of the possibility, and overall, it is entertaining, at least to me. Now, in this video, we're going to discuss alien abductions. I want to kind of do a follow-up to the whole UFO alien thing, because when we're talking about extraterrestrials, there are many different things that occur that can be put into question. Of course, we already went over UFOs, extraterrestrial life, and now we're going to talk about abductions. And in this video, I'm going to focus on one primary case that, if you follow this kind of content, you definitely heard of this case, and if you haven't, it'll be very interesting to read this. Now, in this case, the abduction is called the Betty and Barney Hill abduction. And I'm not going to get into it. I'm not going to get too deep into it. There's a lot of information